I want to thank you guys for joining me again for another episode of Corona Chronicles Live. I am excited to have my next guest, Anika Wilson, here. We actually got connected through a mutual connection, April Bonnie, and we were working on a project for military spouses and, just the actual soldiers themselves regarding giving them a hug. So we've got these pillows that we were raising funds for in order to support the spouses of troops whose spouses were away from one another during this time with COVID and the holidays and things of that nature. So we are excited to talk to Anika today, all the way from Hawaii. That's where she's located right now. So before we get into our interview, I want to give her the floor to tell us a little bit about herself.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yes, I'm coming to you all the way from Hawaii. I am a Marine spouse and I am a business owner, a podcast host, a PhD student, mother of three special needs children. And I'm a woman on a mission to help better other women who are purpose driven and ready to blaze a trail in the world. So I am a coach, a consultant, and a lifelong learner. And I am so happy to be here with you today.
Awesome. So, just from that introduction, just goes to show the many hats that you are wearing. And, you look like you got it all together. Okay. So, the first thing is, during such a time as this, dealing with COVID, we've got that on top of everything that you're managing. So, how is it that you're able to be so well put together in the midst of all this chaos and manage your business?
It's interesting because it's just it's using life as a lesson. I have been through hell and back. I've been homeless. I've been divorced. I've been sick. I suffer from chronic illness. That's why I have my infuser always going. But I've used all of it as a lesson. And in 2020, I learned to tap into myself. I do a lot of self-care. I started listening to myself. I've been listening to some of my podcasts and some intros and things that people have sent back to me that I said. And I'm like, wow, I should actually do what I say. And I've been doing it. I have been taking a step back and reprioritizing what's important. My daughter was stricken with an illness and she's now paralyzed. And it kind of really put things in perspective for me. So now I'm a caregiver on top of being a student, on top of being, a business owner and all that. And I kind of just, this has taught me that time doesn't stand still. It waits for no one. And you got to stop doing what you think you're supposed to do and do what you want to do. And that's what I'm doing these days. And it feels really good.
I love that. And so, one of the things that you mentioned is the self care. So, I want to kind of stop here for a minute because so many people talk about that term. And for you, managing all the things that you have to manage on top of now, you say being a caregiver. So, what does self care really look like? How do we get it wrong?
Wrong by neglecting it. So, I was a single mom for a long time, and I really thought that, going to get my nails done or going to get a massage, that those things were luxuries. They're actually necessities. When you take time, whether it's 15 minutes, sometimes I take 3 hours. I will go drive out to the beach while everybody is still asleep, and I will sit there as long as I need to. A lot of times, the only time I come back is because I need to use the restroom. At the end of the day, if you want to avoid depression, anxiety, and of course, I'm a psychologist and mental health therapist. If you want to avoid those things, medications and interventions, take the time and spend it with yourself. Learn to love yourself and put yourself first. We have kids, we have husbands, we have jobs, we have businesses. But at the end of the day, if you're not okay, none of it's going to run and it's all going to be a mess. And I realized that I was just wasting time putting messes out. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to my work. So of course, I'm looking over things a million times, but I finally realized that I'm the one that sets the expectations and I need to get me together and then I'm not working as hard. So now I'm taking a little time out and I'm taking a step back so I can take a step forward.
I love that. And so, you mentioned a good thing about you set the expectations. So, talk to us about that because a lot of people don't get that. It's like, what's your definition of success? And they say, well, I want to have time freedom, but then they sitting up here working 15 hours a day. It don't make sense. So, what does it mean by you setting the expectations?
I literally have a virtual summit going live January 1st with over 50 speakers because it's all about success. And what we talk about is leading yourself first. We talk about defining success. We talk about stop chasing success. And we talk about the fact that you're probably successful and don't even know it. I chased my master's degree for 10 years, and my husband kept saying, see yourself on the other side of it. And I was like, what do you mean? And I finally realized I was sabotaging my graduation because I was comfortable being a student. I knew how to be a student. I really didn't want to be a therapist. I didn't know what I wanted to be on the other side of it. I saw what everybody else was doing, but I knew that wasn't for me. And I had to figure out what exactly I was going to do. When he said that to me and I put myself in check, I got out of my own way. And what we have to realize is we set our own expectations. We say that it's what our parents want us to be or all these different things. But somewhere in there, we create this mind map of what we think we're supposed to be. And we constantly push the bar so that we feel like we haven't achieved anything. And then we beat ourselves up. And then we continue this cycle of monotony. And I say, stop the foolishness. Like, take a timeout, pause, figure out what you're trying to do, create baby steps, and then celebrate your accomplishments. Because if we're constantly just setting new goals and not celebrating the ones we've already achieved, we're pushing ourselves to the brink of just exhaustion.
I love that. I love that. And so, for people, this is really some good stuff because as we are preparing for a new year, it's that time to take to reflect and
Yes.
think about where you're going and how it is that you're going to get there, creating that roadmap, so to speak, to
Yep.
get on the other side. So, what do you think when you're having issues of trauma, depression, or overwhelm? Somebody who's watching, they're at that space, they know they want something different, but what advice would you give them to be a starting step for making that world look a little differently, creating that transition in their life?
Everybody thinks that you got to figure out where to start. You don't. Figure out where you've been, figure out where you don't want to go. A lot of times we get stuck on trying to figure out what we want, but it's easier for us to determine what we don't want because a lot of times we've had that and we're like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that again, or I don't want that relationship again, or I don't want to make that mistake again. So start there. That's a great place to start. And when we're setting the tone for our new year, start with boundaries, start with time blocking, start with doing audits of what you're doing with your time now, what your relationships look like now, and then create that don't want list and then create the want list, and then set a time frame for your goals and say, you know what, by June I want my budget to look like this. By June I want my schedule to look like this. By July I want to go on a vacation. Don't ever think that you don't deserve it. Don't think it's not attainable, because believe it or not, when we actually set action, when we set goals and we take action on them, we normally achieve them if we write them down, if we put them in front of us on all these dry erase boards I got in my house. You got to just be intentional about it. Put it out there, but hold yourself accountable, because a lot of times we tell ourselves and don't tell anybody else because that way we can swipe it and dismiss it and act like it didn't happen and that bubble didn't pop up in your head. But once you hold yourself to that, make it happen.
I love that. And I love starting out where you don't want to go. I mean, because you don't know what you don't know.
And we
Because
know what we know that we wish we didn't know.
exactly. Exactly. And I like that. That's a part of reflecting because so many of us miss that step. We
Yep.
don't even see that, okay, my leg is in quicksand. And
Mhm.
this is where I'm at. We don't take that time to reflect. So I love that you said that. And it's so simple. It is not like it's a magic
Doesn't
carpet
cost
ride
any
or some
money.
kind of foo
Nope.
stuff. It is just real. So I love that. So how do you maintain this level of clarity positivity, just the perseverance and motivation that you appear to have with your energy daily? What is it that you do that kind of keeps you on this wave of thinking?
You know, it's interesting because I've thought about studying resilience. Everybody
Mhm.
tells me I'm resilient, and I didn't know that I was. And then I talk to other people, and I realize that I have life skills that other people don't have. But a lot of that's from surviving trauma. And one of the reasons I started studying it was because I wanted to educate myself to break the generational curses that we all go through. And the biggest thing that I'll tell people is I integrate a lot of different methods. I use meditation, I use prayer, I use diet, I use research. I believe in whatever looks right, feels right. I don't follow any one particular person. Matter of fact, I don't listen to podcasts, I don't follow people on social media. I create my own world and I control my own mind. And the only people that influence it are God and me when I'm talking to Him or myself. And in that way, you protect your energy. You got to be very, very careful when you're trying to get somewhere of what you let in and what you put out. And a lot of people are so busy following, and you will get led down the wrong path and you will waste a lot of time and then you won't even know who you are.
Mhm.
So I say take the time to just do you. Learn you. Learn your thought process. Learn how you think. Learn to predict your behaviors and learn to control them, because if you know that you're stepping in quicksand and you before you can even take the next step, you already done took it and you're sinking even deeper. If you know that's your pattern, take
Mhm.
the time to learn you, journal, write, find an accountability partner, build your village. I'm huge on the fact that we are not designed to live life alone. I
Mhm.
use all of these different methods because on one day I may need more of this and a little less of that. You just have to create what works for you, and it takes time. And I did a lot of it wrong and now I'm getting a lot of it right and I like it. And
Mhm.
so I'm just really being protective of the space that I'm in and who I
Mhm.
allow to be in that space with me.
I love that. And you mentioned the key thing about creating that world that you want.
Mhm.
And this is the thing that I think a lot of people miss when it comes to getting a coach or having a mentor or accountability partner is that element of creating. That means you have to be invested in doing a lot of the work and being intentional. So many times we hear about this coach or this program, and the program is not going to work without you working the program. So that's the thing that a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to buy this. This is going to be the answer. This is the formula. But I mean, they forget that they have to do the work.
Yeah, yeah.
So you
And they
mentioned,
buy another program and it's still not working.
right. Or, start it and don't complete it, or,
Mhm.
one of those things, because you got to be consistent. So you mentioned the boundaries and the time blocking. So let's
Mhm.
dive into each of those topics to help people because, at the beginning of the year, it's a Gotta love the internet, guys. Um, okay. All right. Sorry about that. I have little children who unplug in the cord. Okay.
Oh, oh. I didn't know if it was mine, so I just sat still. I just look. I have island internet. I never know. I never know. I just wait.
It's crazy, girl. So I'm over here,
Hmm.
I'm all into it. I'm like, okay, so we talking about boundaries and time blocking. Next thing I know, the screen goes black. Okay. And I'm like, well, what happened?
I
So
thought the
little
time is still
people,
going.
look,
Oh,
little people. Okay. So that was a little commercial break. So I hope y'all went to the restroom, got y'all something to drink. So we back to the boundaries and the time blockings because it's the beginning of the year, something that we can focus on,
yeah.
practical things that can help us move forward. So, what are the top things that we need to know about boundaries and time blocking?
Well, the first thing you need to know about boundaries is that they need to exist. Not only do they need to exist, they need to be maintained. That is the
Hmm.
hardest thing to establish, and especially according to culture. A lot of cultures we have a lot of blurred lines in a lot of cultures. So it's really important that as we age that we learn that it's okay to enforce them, and we learn how to demand respectfully, how to gracefully say no, how to, establish, ground rules in your house, with your family, with your job, with your time, with social media, with yourself. So creating those lines, those boundaries, they will change your life in itself. A lot of times we're changing jobs, we're changing locations. I was the queen of changing stuff. I changed everything. I needed to change me. I needed to change my mindset. I needed to change my expectations. And as soon as you start doing those things, everything will shift. And so just sit down and start thinking about boundaries and read, Google it, read and see exactly what it is, because they look different for everybody.
I love that. And so, what about the time blocking? Because a lot of people think, I suffer from this with my depression. I was trying to do 1,000 things in a 24 period of time, right? Already waking up on empty,
Yep.
right? But thinking that I have the energy to do all these things in one day, and then not the foresight to say, okay, well, on Monday, I only got two things done. On
Uh-huh.
Tuesday, I only got two things done. So why is my list on Friday got 40 things on it instead of just two things? You see what I'm
It
saying?
starts
Okay.
literally with something that looks like this, and you determine that you create the hours that you want it to be effective, and the
Hmm.
days of the week that you want to be effective. I have about 18 of these. Some
Hmm.
of them start at 5 in the morning, some start at 6. But literally, a planner is great and all that, but you really need to do an audit. Just like, Dave Ramsey teaches, every dollar has a name, every dollar has a place, so does every minute. And I'm still mastering this because I've learned it in multiple different places, but now in school it's extremely important because, I've committed to school, and that's like 20 to 40 hours a week. Plus I have a job as a mental health therapist. Plus I have a business. Plus I have kids. Well, when you calculate the hours in the week and the different things that you have, we constantly beat ourselves up because we feel inadequate. Oh, I had 150 things on my list for Monday, but I only got 100 done. You're still superwoman, okay? But you can't keep doing that, because that's why we get run down. And I used to get sick. I would work for 4 months at my job and then I was sick. Well, it's because I was working and I was doing a life group at church and I was, in school and I was doing a. You kind of got to just take a step back and prioritize. Like, okay, what do you want to focus on now? You can do 3 of those titles. You can't do 5. And
Hmm.
be realistic. And that's why I say our expectations determine our altitude. Because a lot of times we create these expectations. We think that everybody else puts them on us. They
Hmm.
don't. It's us. We put them on ourselves. And then we say, oh, yeah, I could do that. Oh, yeah, you need me to bake brownies? Oh, sure, I got you. Oh, yeah, you need me to be at church on Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. And yeah, I got you. Lies, lies, and more lies. And then you're like, oh, I'm tired. Really? You know,
Right.
it's like, okay, so when you sit down and you're able to literally time block, mind map, put all of this crap on paper and
Mhm.
figure out where your time's going, figure out what you like to do and figure out what you don't want to do, and gracefully bow out of the foolishness that you're not interested in. Because if you're really setting goals towards something, that's where your
Mhm.
time and energy needs to be going. But we tend to be like hamsters and we're just spinning this wheel of monotony because we're just keeping up the facade of, oh, I'm all this. No, you have a right to say I'm not interested in that, and I'm in a different season in my life, and this is where my time needs to be right now.
That is so good because that makes a difference. And I think even that reflection helps you to think about how it's just like going on errands, right? You
Hmm.
figure out where you're going, and then you decide what things are on the way, how you can double up and do three or four things on the way to the store or whatever route that you take.
Maximizing
And
your
so
time.
same thing with your projects. You might have been going all the way around a day trying to accomplish something when you can time block and get it all done at one time. Maybe send out all your emails at this time and then move on to creating videos and all these different things. So keeping them categorized, I mean, that really is so good what you're saying, because
Hmm.
we don't have that time to think, and then we're just running around checking email, being at everybody else's beck and call instead of having our own plan for
And
what we
we
want to do.
actually, we always think we don't have time to plan. I plan on Sundays and I sit down and I look at
Mhm.
what doctor's appointments we have, and then I create my schedule around that. Okay, how many podcasts do I have? How many graphics do I need? How many this, how many? And then my mind is set for, okay, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are going to be tough, which are normally my busy days of the week. And then Thursday and Friday, I'm bowing out. I'm like, yep, I'm not answering emails to next week. I mean, you have a right to set those boundaries and set the tone. I went on my calendar the other day and I blocked off Mondays and Fridays. I'm now working 3 days a week because guess what? I got into business so that I could do that. And I've been sitting here saying, oh, yeah, I could do Saturday. Yeah, I could do Sunday. Guess what? I didn't want to do it. Why am I forcing myself to do something to please other people versus doing what I need? And so
So
you
true.
have every right to do that. So you talk about an hour. We always think we don't have time to plan. That hour of planning will save you 5 hours on the back end. And
So
that
true.
multitasking, you're not getting anything done. It's taking you 5 hours to do something that'll take you 10 minutes. So that's something I'm working on because I got the three screens and I'm like doing homework and the interview and a webinar. Yeah, no, you didn't. None of that sunk in. You don't know what just happened. You have no clue. So that's my
That
goal for 2021.
That is so true. And I mean, it is the truth. We just feel like, being asked to do all these different things is really what's making us important or making
Yes.
an impact. But if you don't even know what you're talking about or you're exhausted, you're not going to be showing up in the best light for yourself.
Nope.
So
Not
I
at all.
love that you bring that up. That is so true. Now, so when it comes to parenting, you said you have three special needs. There may be somebody out there who, we get into this point. We feel like, woe is me because I've been there, with my depression. Nobody understands my struggle. How is it? Well, what advice would you give somebody who's in that space that, they have a hard thing that they're managing, but how do they move forward and think in a positive way in the midst of that?
Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is believe in yourself because I tend to post things and say, hey, does anybody know how to do such and such and such and such? And it's not necessarily me asking for help. It's me validating somebody else saying, I'm going through this. I'm human too. So guess what? Just letting you know that I'm living too. And so I say trust yourself because a lot of times we know and we have the skills to navigate exactly what we're going through. But we tend to first ask for help when we know exactly how to do it. If we just take the time to say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. Hold on. Let me regroup. All right, do this, 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 this. She needs this. He needs that. And she needs this. All right, so I'll fix this, that, and this. And then on Monday, I'll do. You have it. You have it. Stop reaching out and going on social media and doing all these things because I'm talking to myself, but I'm talking to y'all. Look within because we're equipped. We're
Yeah.
equipped for everything that we need to put out. We just often need support. We may need somebody to talk us through it. We may need somebody to hear us, just to listen. But you got to trust and believe that you have everything that you need for what you're dealing with. Those kids were given to you because you can handle it. And I used to hate when people say, God won't give me anything you can handle. I'm like, I'm punching you in your face, say it again. But the reality of it is that is so true. And when I started believing in that, I said, I must be a bad chick. And I just started waking up saying, okay, here's another day. What are we dealing with today? Devil, you better get a little busier because I already squashed that once. I'm going to squash it again. And then we're going to move on and we're going to grow from it. And so a lot of times we see things as a burden, or we see things as, you know, a punishment, but it's actually growth and development, because you don't know that when this next challenge comes, it's not even going to be challenging to you, but it may be to the next person, and you're going to advance past them because you're prepared.
I love that. That is definitely some good points. And I think, that is so true. What doesn't defeat you makes you stronger, so that is definitely a key thing. Now, for many people who are wanting to research, one of the things I struggled with my depression was asking for help, admitting that I didn't know anything, because I was raised as a high achiever. Academics was something that I excelled in. That was really my world. That's all I knew. So when it comes to being an only child, then boom, you have 15 children of your own over time. You just, how do you even begin to research, to ask for help, that type of thing? So for somebody who's out there, what advice would you give them about making that transition, to being in a place to get support or help or whatever that may be?
I would say that there is the first thing I've done with everything. I suffer from fibromyalgia, emphysema, COPD, PTSD. I have it all. And I started on Facebook groups. When I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia years ago, when I got into a Facebook group, nobody on my timeline was talking about it, maybe a few people, but everybody else was like crickets when I would post like, hey, this pain is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. I got into a group and it was 10,000 people on there that are going through the same thing. And I sit and I scroll and I read, but it informs me, it validates me, and it supports me. But then also when I'm ready to move past that stage where a lot of people were willing to just stay there and say, okay, I'm just going to stay in bed and I'm not going to fight this thing. When I got what I needed, I moved on. And so, we have to understand that when we need help, don't overcomplicate the question. Literally Google what you feel. If you don't know what depression looks like, say, I'm fatigued, I'm tired. My body, I have no energy. Every day I wake up and I don't feel like doing anything. There's terms for that, dyspnea, all kind of, you don't have to know that stuff. Google exactly what you're thinking and what you feel, and I promise you it'll come right up. And it'll tell you where to go and what to do. Now, I tell everybody needs a therapist and everybody needs a coach. People think that depression and anxiety are an illness, but guess what? They're also symptoms. They're not always an illness. They're symptoms of things like grief, of things like pandemics, of things like job loss, of changes that you're going through. And a lot of people tell people all the time, oh, don't let it get you down. Lies. You are designed to feel. Emotions are normal. When you're feeling down, when you're feeling happy, those are normal emotions. If you just lost a loved one or a friend, it's normal to not feel happy. So, we have to stop like putting all these expectations and all of these requirements on things, and stop overcomplicating diagnoses and running from diagnoses. Because in our culture, even autism or all these things, nobody wants to hear it. Your child is different, but you don't want to go ask anybody what's wrong. You just raise them as if nothing's wrong. But guess what? You're doing a disservice, because they can't keep up in class. Then they don't want to go to college. Then they can't read, and you don't even know that they can't read because you've been masking it and hiding it their whole life. And now they can't grow as an adult because they're not equipped to do what they need to do, because you didn't get the services for them that are designed to give them the tools to live the life that they deserve to live. And so we have got to start with educating ourselves so that we can educate others. And whether it's depression, anxiety, weight loss, weight gain, health issues, whatever it is, somebody, anybody knows. But we got to stop caring what other people think. Because if you post on your timeline, anybody watching this has more than 500 friends. And out of those 500, one person knows what you're going through. And if you ever post on Facebook, use it. It is a resource. Use it to your benefit instead of something that's not going to help you.
I love that, and I think, this is really what people need. It's just a wake up call, because so many of us hide behind politically correct phrases and expressions instead of just telling it like it is. I had a situation just last night. I told my daughter, I said, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Believe them.
I said, you have a juncture where you want somebody to tell you the truth. You find out that they lied to you. So instead of looking at this lie that they told you, you go back to fantasy island, believing how you want them to be and ignoring what really is in front of you. So who's really the one at fault? You or them? You see what I'm saying? Because they were being their true version of who they are. You saw that and you decided to stay in communion with them instead of saying, hey, okay, I thought that was a trustworthy person, but they're not trustworthy. They showed me that, but you're still believing this fantasy.
That's insanity. And that's why I say, if you're going to continue to step in quicksand, I sit and I wonder, I say, is that maturity? Like, is it, and part of it is, but a lot of it is confidence. And I sit and I'm a mental health professional. I'm a psychologist. I read, I study the brain. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to confidence, knowing your own value. And as girls, as women, it's hard because we go through all of these stages. And then, God forbid, we have trauma or anything that impacts that. And my husband asks me all the time, like, why aren't you confident? Like, everybody comes to you and everybody looks to you. And it's like, you can be confident professionally and not personally. You can be confident externally and not internally. There's so many levels of confidence. But what you have to understand is when we're talking about know your worth, know your worth, know your worth, that means stop marrying potential. That means stop giving everybody your time and energy. It means boundaries, because when you open yourself up to any and everything, you're making yourself vulnerable for any and everything. And I think, a lot of people who are service oriented with a good heart or empathic, as we just want to help everybody. And it's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of learned lessons to understand that you can't. And you're not designed for that. And you have to determine what your gift is, what you want to do, and what you like to do. And determine that you have a right to do those things. And that's it.
I love that because, so many times we look at things at face value, but there's some deeper meanings behind things. So when we're thinking we're helping somebody, their behavior and reactions tell what their motivation is. So, you're over here with this person who, oh, I'm going to try to help them financially, but they're not learning the lesson. They're saying, oh, if I need something, I can always go to her. So even that miscommunication, you can't help somebody by showing them value when they have no recognition.
Morals or values.
You see what I'm saying? Because it's like, you're investing in them and they're not in making an investment. And then you wonder down the road, well, why were they doing that? They took advantage of me, but you saw the signs and kept on doing it. You see what I'm saying? So true. Now, so what is the best way for the audience to get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me is to go to AnikaWilson.com.
Okay. And what final words would you want to share with us as we close out 2020 and go into 2021 that we can move forward and think about here in the next couple of days?
All I want people to do is think about what you really want and go for it. because you can achieve it. Stop making excuses and be about it.
I love that. And hey, I challenge you guys that, you have no excuses. You listen to all the things that Anika is doing and all that she has to juggle and manage. And I mean, she just really has it together. And, one of the things that I think is so encouraging about these interviews is that, people see my guests performing at their optimal level, just the insights and wisdom. And it's not about portraying perfection, but it's about knowing that, you have to create the life that you want for yourself. We all have ups and downs. We all have sadness. We all have certain things that affect us, that are outside of our control, but it is about the power that you have when you make up your mind to do the things that you desire and what kind of life you want to create for yourself. And it's possible when you get around the right people. So I just want to thank you for being a part of my tribe because, this is encouraging and inspiring for me because those days when I have my 8 kids doing remote learning, I could say, hey, Anika's got 3 special needs. She's doing this and doing that. So I got a little bit of strength that I can lean on. You see what I'm saying?
Let me tell you, my kids, I pulled them all out. They're all homeschooled. And guess what? On the days that I don't want to do homeschool, I don't, because I homeschool them so I can have flexibility.
Amen.
And I don't let anybody tell me otherwise. I needed to create what I needed to create so none of us go crazy. And
So
that's what I
true.
do.
So true, girl. And I love that because I do the same thing, girl. We have mental health days.
Exactly. See, you get people don't understand. Those are holidays. And you
I'm
can on
telling
them
you.
when you need them. I tell everybody, I created a world where I'm an entrepreneur and I homeschool my kids. We have no systems that we answer to outside of this house other than the healthcare system. And so it's nobody telling me where I need to be when. It's flexibility because all those years I worked in the prisons and I worked in social services, I knew that the day that I broke free and I got my expiration date, that I wasn't going to let anybody tell me what I needed to do and when. And I said, my husband took that oath. I didn't. So I created the life that I knew that I needed because I do have anxiety disorder. And so in order for me to live a life off meds, I create the life that I need to be healthy.
I love that, girl.
That's what you do. You do what you need for you.
So true. It was so funny because we do the remote learning, so they still interact with their teachers and everything. But
she drove me nuts.
There was a time when I had like 5 or 6, and we would do homeschool. And people were like, "Oh, are you a part of this homeschool group and that homeschool group?" I said, "Look, I am homeschooling so that I can have time freedom. I'm not trying to be in this group and that group. It's like, this one trying to have you meet over here, then you got to load all the kids up and do that." I said, we are not doing that. So I definitely feel what you're saying when it comes to getting involved and having other people dictate your schedule. It can be crazy.
I'm telling you, and I'm looking for one group per kid because I'm like, look, we need somebody to do PE. And we're in Hawaii, so maybe they'll take them to the museum or to the beach or scuba diving or something. So I said, I'll look for the co-ops, but one group per child. That's it. And once a week. And that's it. But that is the socialization, and I need a break. But yeah, I think that a lot of people, and you asked me for 2021, this is the word I'm going to give for everybody. Permission. Give yourself permission to do what you need to do for you, because a lot of us are waiting for permission. We're waiting for somebody to tell us it's okay. And I'm here to tell you it's okay. That thought that you had, cash in on it, endorse it, endorse your thoughts, endorse your wants, endorse your goals, endorse your feelings, and go for it. Stop doubting what you already know.
Amen. Amen. I mean, hey, very well said. So we are going to end it there. You guys reach out to Anika. Thank you so much, Anika, for all your insight and everything. And Happy New Year to you. And we definitely are going to have to collaborate again in 2021.
Anytime. And thank you for having me. And Happy New Year.
All right. Next time we'll make sure that internet is okay, though.
Can't be no fun without the surprises.
Isn't that the truth? Love it. It happens to the right guests, okay? The ones that know how to roll with the flow, okay?
I'll roll with it.
All right. Okay, well, thank you guys for watching. Reach out to Anika. You guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Bye for now.